No DQ Galaxy. We are live with NXT Stand and Deliver 2022 results. It was quite the show, I must say. People were wondering, would the post takeover era events live up to the previous shows? I do not think that this was quite at the level of the classic takeovers, but this was still from start to finish a really solid wrestling show. Just over 2.5 hours, the usual time for these NXT events. And I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was a very strong show overall. And really, there was no weak points on this show. But, anyways, let's get to the matches. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. It's been a busy weekend already. Last night was the Hall of Fame. You could check out that video with my thoughts over at youtube.com/AaronRiftNoDQ. And later tonight, we got WrestleMania Saturday. We got a lot of wrestling and a lot to talk about. So let's get right into it. First match of the evening was the kickoff match. We had 7 matches, which is more than usual. Typically, for the old school takeovers, we have 5 matches. But for this show, we had 7 matches, including the kickoff, which was not just any random match. This was for the NXT Women's Tag Team Titles. Toxic Attraction, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane defending against Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai, who recently just reunited to challenge for the tag team titles here. This was a pretty solid match for the kickoff. I'm a little surprised, though, as how it played out, because I feel like it's not really the most optimal spot to do a title change during a kickoff. I feel like if you're going to do a title change, put it on the main show. But we had a title change. So anyways, it was back and forth. And you had Wendy Chu coming down to ringside. She distracted Dolan. She hit her with a pillow and threw a drink in her face. And then Gonzalez took down Dolan with a big boot. And back in the ring, Gonzalez hit her chokeslam powerbomb and scored the 1-2-3 victory over JC Jane. So yes, we have new tag team champions crowned during the kickoff show. I have no problem with the title change. I just thought that if you're going to do that, put it on the main card. So yes, you have to go and watch the kickoff show if you want to see new tag team champions. I guess maybe that's an incentive for people to watch the kickoff. But the thing is, like, you still have people filing into the arena. And it's just, to me, not a great look when you have tons of empty seats from people not arriving in the arena yet when you have new tag team champions. Just saying. So now we'll move on to the main card. We kicked it off big. You knew it was going to be a hot start to the show. We have Carmelo Hayes defending the North American Championship against Santos Escobar, Grayson Waller, Solo Sikoa, and everybody's favorite underachiever, Cameron Grimes. Ladder match for the NXT North American Championship. You had a bunch of people on the outside of the ring in this match. You had Trick Williams out there. He was pulling Hayes to the outside, saving him from harm's way. You had Legado del Fantasma out there. Grayson Waller's bodyguard was out there as well. And they all got involved at one point. At one point, you had all of the managers, whatever you want to call them. They were all in the ring, and Elektra Lopez ended up jumping off the top rope to the outside. So they were getting involved too. The people that were not official participants in the match, they were doing stuff. And yeah, this was quite the spectacle, as you would come to expect from these ladder matches. Escobar, one of the highlights was Escobar climbing up the ladder. He got hit with a cutter by Waller out of nowhere. Little tribute to Randy Orton, I suppose. Hayes hit a springboard clothesline to stop Waller from climbing the ladder. And then another highlight, Escobar climbed up the ladder and did this sunset flip power bomb to the Uso onto the ladder that was below in the corner of the ring. And then we had Hayes and Waller both on the ladder. They were trading blows. And then you had the typical sequence where you got everybody climbing the ladders at the same time. You had like 3 ladders set up, and all 5 participants were climbing the ladders. And everybody fell down. Escobar climbed back up, took Grayson Waller off the ladder with a Hurricane Rana, and Sikoa hit Escobar with a frog splash. Crowd was doing the Uso chant, by the way. They do that pretty much every show with him. Younger brother of the Usos, of course. Grimes and Hayes were laid out on these 2 ladder bridges that were set up on the outside of the ring. Waller climbed on this ladder on the outside. He went for a big elbow drop, but he missed. He crashed, went right through the ladder. His targets moved out of the way. And then back in the ring, Cameron Grimes came off the top with a cave-in to Escobar, climbed up the ladder to become the new NXT North American Champion. Match was very entertaining. I should have known. As soon as Grimes was talking about dedicating the match to his father, I should have known that he was going to win this one, because that was the story they were going with, the feel-good moment. And I should have picked him, but I didn't. To be fair, I did do the predictions before Tuesday, the Tuesday night NXT show, but I could have always changed it, and I chose not to. Caleb Jacobs sent in a $5.25 super chat, says, I loved the whole show from start to finish. My grade, A+. Cameron Grimes deserves this. Well, there you have it. That is coming from Caleb Jacobs. I appreciate it, Caleb. Next up on the show, we had Tommaso Ciampa going up against Tony D'Angelo. This match was basically designed to build up. D'Angelo was one of the up-and-coming superstars in WWE. They had this entrance where they pulled up to the arena backstage in a car, and AJ Galante was out there with him. Ciampa, for his entrance, did a little tribute to Triple H, which was super cool. He did the water spitting entrance, getting on the apron and spitting out the water. Did the little Shawn Michaels pose to pay tribute to Shawn as well. Ciampa, pretty much the last major star from the black and gold era. So this was, you could say, an end of an era. Ciampa, early on in the match, did what he usually does. He pulled away the floor mat to expose the concrete, but then they were back in the ring. D'Angelo worked him over for a while. Ciampa got a second wind. D'Angelo got a little cocky, started trash talking. That fired up Ciampa. But D'Angelo could not put away Ciampa, started to get frustrated. He got a crowbar. However, Ciampa stopped him from using it. Referee got rid of the crowbar, but then D'Angelo hit a low blow. Ciampa kicked out of that. And then D'Angelo went for the crowbar again. But he got hit with the Willow's Bell. Ciampa hit the fairy tale ending. 1, 2, but no. D'Angelo kicked out of the fairy tale ending. Ciampa put on Johnny Gargano's submission, but D'Angelo got to the rope. Crowd started chanting Johnny Wrestling. They ended up on the outside of the ring again. Ciampa ended up getting hit with a DDT by D'Angelo onto the exposed concrete floor. So Ciampa's plan unfortunately backfired for him. D'Angelo got Ciampa back in the ring, kicked him in the head, and scored the 1-2-3 victory. Match was very good, and then afterwards we had a really awesome moment. The crowd, knowing that this was Ciampa's last match in NXT, They chanted, "Thank you, Ciampa." They gave him a standing ovation, and Ciampa went up by the stage, and that's when Triple H showed up, making his first NXT on-camera appearance since the summer of 2021, sometime around there, July, August. Triple H ended up giving him a big hug. The two of them shared an intimate moment, and this was maybe the highlight of the entire show for me. Definitely, as I said, an end of an era. Really cool moment here to see Triple H and him and Ciampa having that special moment together. So this was a nice way to wrap up Ciampa's run in NXT. Next up, we have Imperium, Fabian, Aichner, and Marcel, Barthel going up against the Creed brothers and MSK. NXT Tag Team Titles. Imperium has new music, by the way, which includes Walter, Gunther, whatever you want to call him. And I'm not a fan of it. Surprised? It's just kind of generic. The old music was great, but I guess they got to have their own Def Rebel music for these guys, and it's just kind of bland. So anyways, in this match, you could have 3 men in the ring at any one time. So one participant from each team could be in the ring. MSK and Creed brothers had a pretty strong start, but Imperium took control. They were working over the other team members. Eventually, MSK built up some momentum. Imperium recovered from that, though, and they superplexed Julius Creed onto MSK, which was a pretty cool moment. Crowd went crazy for that one. And then Brutus got on the top rope and did a cannonball, literally a cannonball, off the top rope to the outside onto MSK. And Imperium ended up taking out Brutus. They finished off. They finished him off, and then back in the ring, MSK was able to make another comeback, and they scored the pinfall victory. They took out Barthel. MSK winning your tag team titles. A really good match here. I am a little surprised, though, that Creed brothers did not win the titles. They definitely seem like the team that is on the rise in WWE, but MSK, they regained the belts, and they're a great team. So I'm happy for those guys. Match was really entertaining. Now we move on to the women's championship match. Mandy Rose defending against Cora Jade, Kaylee Ray, and Io Shirai. Jade got a cool little entrance with a bunch of skateboarders. Mandy had some wings in the background on the Titantron, and she was lowering down from a podium. We also have a new women's championship design. I like it, although to be totally honest with you guys, I do not remember what the old title design was. Just goes to show how little I really care about the title designs these days, but it looked fine. No issues with the new title design. Looked good. The 3 challengers decided to target Mandy Rose right off the bat, which makes a lot of sense. But then as soon as Rose got thrown to the outside, they're like, well, now we'll fight each other. Like, I'm thinking, if this is a shoot fight, why not just completely destroy Mandy Rose so you're guaranteed a new champion? I never understand the logic why the challengers will work together at first and then turn against each other like right away. Why not just completely annihilate the champion so the champion is a complete non-factor? Just saying. Anyways, match was really solid here, going in different directions, everybody getting in some offense. A couple of highlights. Jade did a dive to the outside. Io Shirai did a moonsault to the outside. And Jade ended up hitting Ray with a destroyer on the apron. And then back in the ring, Io Shirai tried to finish off Mandy Rose. Jade came back in, came off the top with a senton, prevented Shirai from winning the championship. And then Shirai hit a moonsault to Jade. Rose then came out of nowhere with a running knee to Shirai and scored the pinfall victory 1-2-3 to retain her championship. I did predict Mandy Rose to win, one of my few predictions that I got correctly. Figured that Cora Jade, if they're going to build her up for the title, she can always get a one-on-one match down the line that she was originally supposed to get, and she can continue the chase a little bit longer. So I felt that this was totally fine with Mandy Rose retaining the title. Now we move on. LA Knight versus Walter. I'm going to call him Walter because I'm not a fan of the Gunther name, and they got rid of his music too, so kind of sucks for him. The one positive, though, is that he looks in great shape. He has definitely gotten leaner, and he's got some abs going here. Gunther looking in great shape, looking like a guy that could be on the main roster sooner than later. I'm just not a fan of that new song, though, I have to say. So this was another good match. Every match on this show was really solid. Like, I don't think that there was any match on this show that I would say is an all-time classic NXT match, but I think every match on the show was pretty damn good. So anyways, this one went back and forth. Gunther got the upper hand. He dominated for quite a bit, actually. Knight eventually made a comeback, hit a power slam, hit his signature LA Knight elbow drop, hit a superplex. He was hitting all these moves, but Gunther kept kicking out. Knight hit an inverted DDT, which looked impressive, but Gunther kicked out of that again. And then Gunther finally put away Knight, coming off the top with a big splash and then power bombing him 1-2-3 to score the victory. I expected Walter to win this one, build him up as a potential contender for the NXT title, or even get him ready for the main roster at some point. And finally, we had our main event match. Dolph Ziggler, the NXT champion, defending against Bron Breakker. And Breakker had a chainsaw, a pretty cool looking chainsaw for his entrance. And he came out there. There was a 2.0 NXT logo this time. So for those offended about the black and gold NXT being desecrated, this time it was the 2.0 NXT logo that was desecrated, because Bron Breakker took that chainsaw and cut a big line, opening up that X symbol, and then we had our match. Ziggler was playing the mind games right off the bat. He slapped Breakker before the match even got started, tried to get Breakker to lose his cool. But Breakker was on the offense in this early going of the match. He suplexed Ziggler multiple times, pulled down the straps, was going to try to make short work of him, but then Robert Roode grabbed his foot, and Roode ended up being ejected by the referee. The referee told him to leave, and as everybody was distracted by this, Ziggler went over to one of the corners and exposed one of the turnbuckles, taking off one of the turnbuckle pads. Ziggler gained the upper hand for a while, worked over Breakker. Breakker made a comeback, hit a Frankensteiner. And again, on commentary, they did, in fact, acknowledge him as Rick Steiner's son. Steiner brothers in the Hall of Fame, of course. Breakker hit a really good-looking spear. Ziggler sold it very well, but Ziggler kicked out. And then Breakker hit his finisher, the military press into the power slam, but Robert Roode returned. Despite being kicked out by the referee, Roode returned, stopped the pinfall attempt, and then Breakker decided to hit a big somersault dive over the top onto both Roode and Ziggler. Roode was thrown into the steel steps, and it looked like everything was going to be fine for Breakker, but then Ziggler hit the Fameasser, then he hit a zigzag. Breaker kicked out of that, and crowd bought into this as a near fall, so they popped big when Breaker kicked out. Ziggler went for the super kick, but Breaker literally popped right back up. Breaker hit a third spear onto Ziggler, went for the finisher again, but Ziggler managed to slip out, and he shoved Breaker into the exposed turnbuckle. Then Ziggler hit the super kick and scored the 1-2-3 victory over Breaker. And Darren G says, pay attention to the turnbuckle before the match ended. They got me because I actually forgot about the turnbuckle. Like, so many things were happening, and that happened very early in the match. I actually forgot about it. So when that happened, I'm like, oh shit. So I was really surprised by the finish of this match. I thought for sure Breaker was winning back the title. I think a lot of us thought Breaker was winning back the title. Did not expect this. I was kind of bummed out because we didn't get to see the Steiners, but after seeing them at the Hall of Fame, they were having a tough time moving around. I figured that was probably not going to happen. But match was really good. Like, it felt like a WWE main event pay-per-view match, and the crowd was into it all the way. So great stuff here. Are they fast-tracking Breaker to the main roster, or are they going to try and continue this storyline where he's got to work his way back up to the top? He had that early taste of success, but now he's being knocked down several rungs, and he's got to work his way back up. We'll see what happens. Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Walter. He says, the Steiner brothers went into the Hall of Fame. Now, why not just change Breaker's name, maybe when he goes to the main roster? I think they just want to have a name that they can market. And yeah, I think Braun Steiner or Bronson Rex Steiner, whatever, would be marketable. And maybe they will at some point. But I feel like they've already invested in Braun Breaker, and they're just going to go with it. And according to Braun Breaker, he came up with the name to use. So I don't know if they're going to change it or not. I'm used to the name by now. It doesn't really bother me that much, but I'd be fine if he was a Steiner. The game is on 100. Sent in a $2 super chat. Says, Braun buried from Vince. Main roster is greater than NXT 2.0. Well, again, they might be fast tracking him. We'll have to wait and see, or maybe they want to have him continue to try to build his way back up. But I was surprised by this, for sure. And good old JM, Jeff Meacham, sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Jeff. He says, JMN goes live tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern with our watch along and reactions to night one of WrestleMania. He says, horse through mine may be. Thank goodness for Zycam? What is that? Oh, it's a cold medicine. Jeff, you got to tell me what these things are. I'm dumb. Can't just use a bunch of random phrases that I've never heard before. Anyways, show was really good. Like I said, not top level NXT TakeOver great, but it was a really fun show to watch. Just over 2.5 hours. So I like the run time. That's not including the kickoff, though. But still, the right amount of time for a pay-per-view. I'm giving it a solid B+. Really good show. And main event was a lot of fun. And every match was really solid, like I said. So that's it for the NXT show. And we got more to come. 7 matches down. We got, another 7 to go tonight with the WrestleMania Saturday. I will be back tonight at noon. Not noon. Jeez, I'm tired. It's already been a long weekend. Midnight. I wish it was noon. Midnight or whenever. But sometime later tonight, early Sunday morning, I will be back with WrestleMania Saturday thoughts. Check that out. And of course, NoDQ.com will have match-by-match results of the event. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it and hope to see some of you later tonight. See you then. And remember, say yes to NoDQ.com. Talk to y'all later.